What's up, everybody? Matt Nuzzo here at Reel with none other than Fred Hope.
Yeah, excited to be here.
Fred is a nasty foiler, right? So Fred makes kite foiling look cooler than anyone else on the water. And it's like, you know, you see people like race and cruise back and forth, but when Fred goes on the water, it's just like a different sport. Like, how do you find your inspiration, bro? Like, what's the deal?
I don't know. When I think of foiling, I think about efficiency and connecting turns and such. So everything I do on the water is in the aim of being fluid, right?
Are you a snowboarder or something? Or like, where? No, you just...
I actually am not a boarder at all. I can't even ride a skateboard. I don't have enough balance for that.
This is just strictly kite style, right? But it's
if I have a bar in my hand for stability, then I can do a lot of things on the water. But the second I lose that bar, I lose the stability.
It's cool, man. It's super impressive. The kite foiling has been really, really cool. Watch Fred's progression and also the gear that's been kind of designed around his style of riding, and then, you know, making that accessible to jokers like me that do just kind of go back and forth on the foil, and then having this gear help us and progress. So you got your pro model board in your hands here. Yeah. This is really exciting. You were riding the Dwarf Craft a lot for a long time.
Yeah,
Dwarf Craft.
7 years on the Dwarf Craft.
7 years on the Dwarf Craft. That's still in the line for Slingshot. What inspired you to make the Hope Craft, and what's unique about it?
Yeah, well, Alex Fox, our brand manager at the time, said, "Hey, you want a pro model?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I want a pro model."
On.
So then he asked me, "Well, what do you want to make different from the Dwarf Craft?" And so I thought about it for a couple months. I needed stiffness, I needed to be able to touch down, and I needed low swing weight. You want the low swing weight so you can still carve well and not have the board impact the foil too much and kind of slow you down. You need the stiffness for direct response in the foil, and then you need to be able to touch down because everyone's trying to do foot switches or land tricks. So
when you're you're touching down all the time. You're riding strapless all the time, right? Yeah. So when you land, I mean, you're riding small foils, right? And so when you land, you're hitting the water and bouncing back off. And so
often.
Like, you know, with that style of riding, you're just bouncing off the Dwarf Craft, or was not as kind of like greasing off the water and back on
it wasn't bouncing up quite as well as I wanted it to.
Talking about the rigidity and stiffness of the board, like how are you obtaining that, and what does it feel? How does it feel translate?
So this board is made with carbon for the Hope Craft, making it very stiff and absorbing less epoxy as well. So it lightens it up a little bit too. And then we have 3 stringers in it.
Okay, that's a big deal.
Kind of secret stringers, but it makes it incredibly stiff. I honestly think you could run over it with a car and it wouldn't break. I'm not saying to try that, but
it's not unbreakable, but you don't break them, so
I've tried as hard as I could to make one, and
that's impressive.
Yet. So a lot of people use it for pumping for that reason.
Right. Oh, for like dock start.
Response, and they don't want to snap.
And then wake foiling. A lot of guys are wake foiling with straps and stuff, and like breaking boards in front of the boxes was pretty common.
Yeah. So it's incredibly reinforced right in front of the box for that very reason. So that you don't have that point load in front of the front of the plate.
It's like a seesaw, man. Like freaking jump on that thing enough times. Right. So the rigidity is going to help just like your average rider dock starting, but it gives you more stability too. You know, I found with really rigid boards, they could just feel a lot more stable.
You know where the foil is. It's not kind of being loose underneath your feet.
Right, lost in the flex of the board, which a lot of people just don't think about until you then have it, and it's like, oh wow, this is pretty insane.
I think of it as kind of like riding a mountain bike uphill, right? If you have too much suspension, every time you pedal, you lose a little bit of energy. Right. Versus on a hardtail bike, when you pedal, it's direct feedback to the back tire. So that's kind of where the stiffness comes in on this board.
Cool, man. I noticed this one, like a lot of the Slingshot boards have the tracks all the way at the back. Why do you have the standard box on these?
It was just something that we knew would be very strong. Right. This one we developed a little earlier than the Wingcraft and the Travel Craft, which have tracks out the back.
You don't need the longer tracks either, and so it's just like, hey, this is tried and true. Strength was really the focal point.
For the first year, you basically want to tell people where to put their foil, right? So it tells them exactly where to put it for the minimal amount of inserts that we have on the top. So we minimize the inserts to save on weight and make the board a little cheaper as well. So it really tells you where to put your straps, so you're not looking at it being like, there's 50 inserts on this board, where do I put my straps? So minimal inserts mean that you know where to put your straps. You're not guessing where 50 straps.
And then you get the weight savings, and it's a tiny board, so it's just like, hey, give 2 options, not 10 options, right?
Yeah. But the other idea behind it is that it's not too small, right? Like when I touch down, if I'm on a 90 centimeter board, like a lot of people, I'm pearling the nose every time. So I like to be able to touch down, and anybody that's doing foot switches is often touching down as well for stability. Anytime you bring the board down, you get stability. You find your place on the board, and then you come back up on foil when you're learning those foot switches. So that was kind of the idea behind that. And we did that by choosing the 103 centimeter length and adding this large amount of volume in the nose. So we call it max volume. Basically just means that there's more volume in the nose than the tail. So when you touch down, bounces the nose up, and the narrow tail sinks down a little bit into the water.
Cool.
So second you touch the water, it's already ready to come back up off the water.
Sick.
Yeah. So really makes it so that you have very little drag when you touch down. It doesn't want to sink under.
It doesn't go under or kind of like stick to the water at all.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
That combined with the super high stiffness means that it almost feels like you're driving with a car that has the tires fully inflated, right?
Nice.
There's no drag on the water. There's no delay in response. It's like driving a Ferrari on the road going 100 miles an hour.
Nice.
Right? Yeah.
Well, when you're kite foiling, it kind of looks like that.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, let's talk about the UFO. Like, what's the, there's a lot of people that are riding single strut, right? They're riding single strut kites, and so everyone's like, I need that single strut. Like kite foiling, single strut, you're taking those kites for lighter weight. A lot of people are riding them, but they're afraid to go no strut, so like, what benefits you're going to get from the UFO and no strut, and like how can you address that, like, hey, this is too I'm not good enough to ride a kite without any struts?
Yeah, there's a lot of fear without having a strut on the kite. Everyone thinks that the canopy is going to come down on the water. We actually designed the UFO so that if it does come down on the water, it quickly inflates by pushing the water that could be on the surface of the canopy upwind towards you. So you don't get this amount of water stuck between a half-inflated canopy and a leading edge.
Right.
And you can look at that by looking at the wingtips and how high they come.
Yeah, I mean, you just see it's like a giant bow on the front. Yeah.
So the idea is when you have it perpendicular to the wind, downwind of you, the air fills the wingtips first, goes up to the leading edge, hits each other, both sides hit,
and then
they push the water upwind towards you.
Oh, sick.
Slowly inflating the canopy from leading edge to trailing edge.
Right, so you could just be patient, wait, the thing will kind of fill in.
You can take your hands off it. I posted a video the other day where I literally was pushing water onto the canopy, let go, it was attached to a chair, I walked away, watched it, and it just inflated just by itself.
Pop back,
It's very easy to have that happen, which means that you don't really get stuck on the water.
Right.
This fear of the one strut is been avoided by these wingtips that we designed,
And so, design spec wise, like this kite is like, flies very different than others. My friend Billy, who's here, he was riding single strut kites and he got onto the UFO. He's like, wow, he's like, the thing just flies everywhere. Like, he's like, you could back fly it, not back stall it. You could literally fly the thing backwards. You could spin it over here, spin it over there. The power per size, he was riding 8 and 10 were his main kite sizes, and he dropped down 2 meters in the UFOs, so
it's
like
very nimble. You can put it in the right spot to get the right amount of power quickly.
Right.
With the strut, anytime you steer the kite, you're trying to flex that strut to follow the rest of the kite, right? So by taking it off, you only have the frame along the leading edge, so the frame flexes instantly, drives the kite through the window, so you get quicker response.
And how do you get so much power? Like, you're literally riding at least a few meters, a couple meters, at least 2 meters smaller than what you're riding in a standard single strut kite. Like, how do you get so much power?
So we made the leading edge kind of on the larger side for a kite, and that basically causes more drag, so it sits deeper in the window, which means that it's generating power more consistently. It doesn't go to the edge of the window and lose all that power.
Yeah, so smaller, like bigger single strut kite's gonna fly way out here front and forward.
Yeah, and it's harder to keep it deep.
Yeah, with a foil though, it's so easy to go in. I mean, this thing rides really fast. Like most kites, like you're talking about, that sit really deep, they just go, they're slow.
They feel draggy,
They feel draggy, and they just don't go upwind that well. But on a foil, you're ripping up wind anyways. And then maybe because you're riding a smaller one, it just goes through the wind more efficiently, or how does that work?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Honestly, there's a little bit of magic behind it.
Yeah, right.
Everyone's kind of surprised about, right? Like, who would think you wouldn't want structure in a kite?
Right.
But with kite foiling, because you're not causing these high loads in the bar, you can really ride a kite that doesn't have as much structure, and you can use that structure to make the kite fly faster.
And how do you feel like jumping this thing? I know you're jumping freaking monster airs. Like, can you feel
so everything's strapless for me, so I'm not really going up past like 20 feet when I'm doing airs, but it still has enough.
Only 20-foot strapless air. It's like just a strapless foil air, only 20 feet, you know.
And rarely doing the high-powered kite loops, right? You use the kite loop as a descent device, right? You kite loop so it slows your descent instead of kite looping to pull you through the air.
Got it, okay.
In my style of riding. So the kite has enough structure for that, and the way it's designed with this higher leading edge, you see how it's slightly off the ground here? It creates a lot of lift, right? So when you're doing these foot switches, you sheet in on the bar and you have all this time to switch your feet on the board. So that's kind of why I like it so much. To do tacks, all these little spinny tricks that I do. The time is really your friend, and the kite is your best friend, right? You're sheeting in to use that power to hold your weight.
Yeah, and even like, I mean, the bigger sizes, it's really cool because like, I mean, you guys got up to an 11 meter. I was like, this thing is like, I go on the 9 and it's like, you know, light like it is right now. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait, I'm like, I don't think I can go kite foiling today. I'm a 9 and I'm like, whoa, I'm way overpowered.
Once you get up, it creates a lot of apparent
power, tons and tons of power. So, you know, really the sweet spot for the sizes for myself is like 5 through 8 in the UFOs. And, you know, like 9 for a 170 pound guy is a big kite for me. Like, you know, 11 would be someone 200 pounds, that's kind of would be their big kite. But even so, like the 9, it's got a pretty small window and I just go right to the 8 pretty quickly. Like 10 miles an hour, I'm on the 8 and jamming.
I mean, they're powerful kites, so you can definitely size down. I always ride the 6 and the 8.
Yeah.
Those are kind of my go-to sizes. Anything from 12 miles an hour on the 8 up to like 24 on the 6 meter.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you can just have 2 kites and really get away with anything. And then you can also ride them, like let's say you go on a trip, they pack down.
They're tiny.
So like you can fit like 4 UFOs in a normal kite bag.
Right.
So
they're literally this big where they pack down,
so you might as well bring 4 kites instead of 2. If you really want to maximize your session.
Yeah, cool,
But
man.
they do still work on the surfboard. I actually,
kite surfing.
Surfboard kite of choice because it, it just drifts down.
It drifts amazing,
light, right?
And you can just pinwheel it and put it wherever you want it to be.
And shuts off really well. That's the other part about this kite is you can really turn it off to focus on riding the wave or your foil.
Amazing.
Yeah. So as you can tell, I really love this kite.
Yeah, good. I mean, part of the design plan, and you know, everyone that rides a UFO is just surprised. Like I'd say surprised, and then they're like super stoked and they're like, oh, okay, cool, I need more of these sizes, I need to keep going. So awesome, man. Thank you so much for the insight on the line. If you want more reviews, you can reach out realwatersports.com or give us a call at shop 252-987-6000. See you guys on the water for the next session.